welcome to Recalling Spirit series, Opening Doors. When I was thinking about this series and what it meant, I had read an article about how opening doors in our lives can improve who we are. And this article was talking about opening doors to success, opening doors to greater relationships, opening doors for other people, literally and figuratively. So, as many of you know, I had to take a spiritual bent on this. Opening doors to ... What could it be? And on closer examination, when I was looking at certain behaviors in the world, I realized that there was a piece that was missing in our behavior, in our moral code, in our core values. And I thought to myself, perhaps I could do a series on opening doors, not only to a better life and to be a better person, but to open doors to these core values that we all have. So today we are going to be talking about the doors to honesty and communication. Remember, our scripture now comes from Romans 12:2. Do not be conformed to the pattern of this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. I want to talk a little bit about honesty. You know what honesty really is? It has to start with integrity. Integrity is being honest with yourself. Honesty is telling the truth to other people. And what I have learned also about honesty is this: it's more than not lying. Take that in for a minute. Honesty is more than not lying. It takes strength and courage to tell the truth. And this is what I know as well. Honest people don't hide their deeds. Honest people don't hide their deeds. So as we look at the keys to honesty, let's look at what honesty means in our lives so that we can really open up the door to greater good by being honest. So if you had a person in your life, and perhaps it was even you, but if you had a person in your life that you intuitively felt that they weren't always telling you the truth, that they kind of had a little bit of an agenda, they kind of wanted to have their own way, did you automatically just trust that person and say, yes, of course? Of course. Generally, we do not. We have this sense within ourselves that I'm not being honest with myself, or I can tell this person is not being honest with me. Those are the keys that we have been given by our intuitive nature, by our divine nature, to direct who we are. So, honest communication is vital in any healthy relationship. And I think that when we can walk up to a mirror, and we can look into that mirror and we can honestly say to ourselves or out loud into that mirror, today I was completely honest with myself. I honored my feelings. I was honest with the individual that I spoke truth to. I was completely honest. And if we can do that in the mirror and see our own reflection and not have any, I wasn't really honest when I decided to take, extra pens and paper clips from the office because I needed them at home. That's just a really simple example of what I'm talking about. Honesty and integrity, it begins with ourselves. And honesty is telling the truth to other people without rancor, without making them wrong. But we have to be honest with ourselves so that we can be in integrity with who we are. And then honesty is telling the truth to other people. It's one of the keys to our core values. Our core values are what we operate out of each and every day in our lives. And in order to open up the door to more success, we have to have these keys to honesty. And the second part of this is communication. Honest communication is vital for any healthy relationship. And I'm going to tell you a story of how I learned about honesty and communication. Many of you know that my husband was Black, and early on in our relationship, I remember it was a Sunday morning. I'll never forget it. It was a Sunday morning, and it was way back in the day when we read newspapers on a Sunday morning. And I had cleaned the house before, and my house had to be cleaned. It had to be just so. And I walked in. It was probably about 12:30 on a Sunday morning. I'd gone out to do something, and I walked in, and there was Frank, and he was reading the newspaper, and he was sitting in his recliner, and he had thrown the newspapers on the floor beside the recliner. And then he got up and went to the other room and made a cup of coffee, and I was so annoyed about these newspapers being, thrown on the side of the recliner. And I said to Frank, I just cleaned this house yesterday. Why can't you just put the newspaper somewhere else? Why did you have to throw them on the floor? He stopped me right there. And as many of you know, Frank was a quiet gentleman, and he looked at me, and there was such firmness in his voice. It was absolutely unnerving. Remember, this was early on in the relationship. And he said, if I can't behave and throw a newspaper on the carpet, or if I can't be myself inside these four walls, we are not going to be able to have a relationship, because when I step out that door, an automatic guard goes up. Why? First of all, because I'm Black. Second of all, because I have a white woman on my arm. So I can't be myself when I go out that door. I have to be able to be myself in here. And if you can't let me be myself in here, then we won't have this relationship. It took me by surprise, but it was the beginning of honest and open communication for both of us to look at where we had come from, who we are, and how that we could make our relationship better. And I always accused him of under communicating. He always accused me of over communicating, which in fact was true in the beginning. But after 32 years of marriage, we found our center, we found that relationship, and we did it with honesty, and we did it with communication. Honest communication is vital for any human relationship. So if you want to open up the doors, the key to your success in opening up that door to honesty and communication, it begins right where you are. First of all, being honest with yourself, and then communicating with yourself in an honest way, and you allow those two core values to create the world that you want. In scripture, it's in James 1:19, it says this: my brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. In our lives, in our daily lives, we are inundated with the news of the world, with all the responsibilities that we have. And if we are to be able to live a successful life and open up these doors into our life to create more meaning, more relationships, more of what we want, it is entirely up to us to first implement that key to honesty. So what is it that you could do this week to be completely and totally honest with yourself in your communication with yourself? What is it that you could do? Name it right now. Write it down if necessary, but actually name it. Name it in your heart and in your mind. Name what you could do to be more honest with yourself, to be more honest in your communications with the world. Because I absolutely promise you, this series on opening doors and to our core values, it is key to what we experience in our world. What we are experiencing right now, if we just look at the world at large and the way that people behave, generally speaking, we are not operating out of the core values of who we are. So this series is about opening doors to our successes of being more than what we are right now. All we have to do, because the more lives right here and it breathes within us and it wants to make greatness for us in our lives, but we must be willing to open up that door to that divineness that lives within us. Remember, in Genesis it says, God created us in his likeness and image, and God saw what he created and he called it good. That means you. That means me. So let's live with these two core values this week and implement them with ourselves and in our daily activities. Because what I am knowing with you and for you, that honesty and communication gives us exactly what we need for that door to open in our lives. I am knowing that this is so. I give thanks that it is, and so it was. Amen. Thank you for joining us this week for the message of love and light. We are grateful for our members and everyone who made it possible to spread our message of hope and possibility to the world. If you found meaning, joy, purpose, comfort, or direction from our videos, I invite you to share the word with your family and friends. Join our growing community and help us spread the love of light even farther. You can start by saying, as they say, hitting the like button and smashing subscribe. Also, please visit us at recallingspiritministries.org to learn more about us and to participate in our weekly prayers of affirmation.